Hello, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Submitted for Your Approval, the card game for Collective, the show for Collective, the community creative card game where you make the cards. I am joined today by my faithful co-host, Grief.
Hi, folks. Just once a little bit more professional.
And my panelist, Empty Folder.
Everyone.
And this is our Thanksgiving special, and we will be doing nothing for that. So let's jump right into it with some accepted submissions, starting with Yamato Orochi. It is an 8-drop strength 8/8 Dragon Samurai from Yamato. Don't know why that's not a Hydra. Entomb, create a soulbound katana in hand without rebound and permanently give it to stats, this unit's base stats. Soulbound katana is already in the game. As a reminder, it usually has rebound. Give a unit +2/+1, then gain the stats of that unit, and if your hero is strength, so is this. So, we talked before, I think it was last week, about the idea of units that are on the higher end needing to have more ways to impact the game if they get wiped, because obviously you lose a lot of tempo that way. And this thing's solution to that problem is to do the rebound katana, or the rebound-less katana, and make it into a really big buff, and then it also gains the stats of that. So this is 2 big units, one right after the other. But I don't really know what to think of it, especially because the one of the main complaints I think a lot of people had was that the units themselves don't have any combat-relevant keywords, and so they're just big chunks of stats. So I guess I'll let Grief get started. Tell me what you think of this design.
First of all, I like the lore aspect behind because it's one of the most famous myths from Japanese mythology concerning the Yamato Orochi and the Windcutter sword, which the soulbound katana should represent. But yet, on terms of balancing, this is a pretty hard pass. Props to Exauger, but first of all, why is soulbound katana losing rebound? That's like an absolute non-issue. Second of all, Yamato Orochi is a big beef. It's a pretty big beatsteak that does nothing. So is technically the soulbound katana. And as you mentioned, that's true because they don't have any keywords that are actually combat relevant. The only relevant aspect about that card is maybe-ish the samurai tag, which is kind of odd on our big Yamato, because you can Kagemusha it for 3, and maybe, just maybe, it dies in the process. But it dies anyway, so you get at least your soulbound katana. So it's a 3-cost heart removal for anything that has 8 HP or less, which is a cute interaction. Since you're getting 6-cost, what was it? 10-9 out of the deal that you have to play first, but still, it's just a beatstick.
And the thing with this, Ace, by the way, congrats getting your first card in the game. I wanted to congratulate you for this, which is why I picked for the show. The thing about this is, yes, it's very flavor forward, but it's just like, and it's funny because he explicitly takes rebound off of the katana, and then he doesn't. There's no use for the chroma part. So really, this could have been an entirely different token that just happened to have a similar effect. The modifying the token just seems a little finicky to me. I don't know. But it could be interesting if you could find a way to give it keywords, or like you said, Kagemusha. It kind of bugs me that it looks like a Hydra, but it's not a Hydra. But I guess that's true to the mythology of it all.
That's true. Funny enough, technically, Hydras only appear in Greek and technically, technically just Greek mythology. So outside of that, multi-headed serpent-ish creatures or lizards were always dragons, even in the Bible.
I don't know. It's just, because we do have the tribe, and it's just, I think it's on like 1 card, but I guess, I would argue for appending it rather than replacing it. MT, what do you think of this?
I mean, to me, this mostly looks like a Kagemusha synergy.
Yeah.
like as a base card, you really can't spend 8 mana on a unit that's just vanilla stats. Like basically, no matter how high the vanilla stats are, it's just not going to work out well for you. Kind of the issue with using Kagemusha with this is that Kagemusha banishes like as soon as the duel is finished. So you need your opponent to have something that can actually kill this, which a lot of the time is a tall order since it has 8 health. So maybe if like deadly units are really popular, you could do something. Although if they're running a lot of deadly units, the big soulbound katana that you're gonna get is also just vanilla stats. Yeah. It's probably gonna run into one of those deadly units.
Yeah. So it's got its issues, but it is a good flavor thing and a nice push forward for maybe Yamato to have an extra uncommon. Now this one is funny because some people were perplexed why I picked the Yamato Orochi. I think it's interesting. I'm confused why you, Grief, picked this one. Shocking Revelation is a 3-drop mind action from nowhere in particular. Draw cards until you draw at least 4 mana worth of cards and lose 1 HP for each card drawn this way. So the idea is like I have a huge chunk of 0-cost cards? Because isn't this like worse than Meticulous Research a lot of the time?
No.
Is there something I'm forgetting?
This is ad nauseum.
This is. Have you ever played certain deck building games where these kinds of cards are allowed or are created to help you structure or sculpt your deck in a specific way where you can enable this? This is a pretty good deck building opportunity card, which also rewards you for manipulating the costs in your deck. You can, if you actually pull it off correctly, not currently since we don't have too many cost altering cards in the deck. But yeah, this can basically get out of hand and allow you to draw like 8-ish cards. Currently in its form, it's at least, well, 1 card you can draw to 5 to 6 cards.
Yeah.
Just put that into perspective with stuff like Meticulous Research.
Yeah. So I get maybe, I guess I'd be running this in, what shells would I be running this in that exist right now? Tusk
Action Spam. Action Spam runs a ton of low cost.
A ton of 1 to 2 cost, even sometimes 0 cost cards. So yeah, you can definitely get like 3 to 4 cards out of this one.
Okay, something that's interesting to think about though. If a card costs negative mana, does it apply negatively to the 4 mana total?
Okay, see, now I understand that.
If I've remembered correctly, that actually is an interaction that can work. That depends on the internal blocking of that card. If the negative value is perceived as 0 or not.
Because Sploosh doesn't go below 0, right?
No, Sploosh does.
Or Sploosh can go below. I meant Sploosh can't go below 0.
That's the main one. The thing is, like, you could just kill yourself with this if you're not careful. Like, if you have a -5 cost Sploosh.
Yeah, do this. Pack a couple Scouring Orbs. Scour over your Sploosh on top of, like, -5, like you said. Shocking Revelation. I like that a lot better. Yeah, you're right. You could potentially kill yourself in the process, but... Interesting.
This will enable so many kinds of weird storm/combo decks. I'm already loving it.
Well, yeah, and I guess with Ush and I guess Ush probably wouldn't run this because Ush has too many cards that'll just stop the gravy train, right? Or no, not Ush isn't necessarily big actions, just lots of actions.
Yeah, the thing is, you can actually go lots of actions with Ush, but preferably big actions because most of the small actions are still just removal or enablers to get into your combo endgame. But even in very low cost unit decks, you can still jam that in.
Yeah, looking at the blocks, it does look like it works with negative costs.
Woo! Okay.
And it's easier to reduce the cost of units to below 0 than actually with actions.
Okay. Biosludge is a 3-drop spirit 0/3 plant ooze from nowhere in particular with ambush, leap, and harmonize. Woo! And rage, you gain HP equal to its attack. So this is, we have now a harmonizer. We have 3 harmonizers. Harmonize might actually get into the game at this pace. We're tied up with Merge now, which Merge is definitely going to get in because it's a lot more popular. So I was excited about this, and I was actually really glad that Empty picked it. You want to talk about this card?
Sure. Yeah, so the reason I picked this is that it's actually like a well-designed defensive card where like it has ambush and leap, and then it just grows over time with how many plants you have. Yeah. Or I guess if the harmonized deck eventually becomes a thing, you can put in all your harmonizers with this.
Well, yeah, but it definitely works in plants, which is what matters.
Yeah. And it's also a card that actually utilizes leap correctly. Because here it's actually fairly relevant since this can get like some pretty big attack and health if you have a lot of plants.
Yeah.
I just think it's a really good defensive card for plants, and I'll be happy to see it when it's in standard.
Yeah, this is really good, and potentially, I mean, also if someone talked about maybe doing a Spirit Rage setup, and I don't know how much that would really intersect.
I mean,
but
that seems pretty hard because you have to run Rage plants, which really isn't a thing.
Yeah, so if someone's looking for a design prompt, maybe design a couple Rage oozes, and maybe that could be a thing for oozes. I don't know. Oozes have been in a weird place tribally, like throughout the history.
Rage makes sense for oozes, though.
And it does make sense for them. Yeah. That's why I was saying that might be a good possible design direction to explore. What do you think of this, Grief?
It's probably one of the first harmonized cards I can get behind. Because it actually utilizes the keyword in an important fashion. But overall, yeah, it's a pretty neat defensive unit that could be actually a core card in a potential harmonized deck when that ever gets into the game. But yeah. The plan filler so far.
And that's the thing about Harmonize is it doesn't have to be the main course. It's perfectly content just being a spice. Okay. So, Gluttonous for the new active Reddit submissions. Gluttonous Kitsune is a 3-drop strength 0/6 Fox Spectre from Yamato, designed by Ace Arguer. With active, pay 2 mana, give this duelist and +4 attack until end of turn, ready this. So there was a card we talked about before that was this kind of like mana sink samurai. It was a while back. I don't even think it got in. I think this is what that should have been. Because it gives you a relevant boost that actually requires you to mana sink. And I guess it does lose at the end of turn, which is something we don't really do that often. And it's doing really well in the subreddit, probably partial thanks to, obviously, Fadus and his beautiful art. What do you think of this one, Grief?
Drone Alice reduces by 1 or by 2?
What?
Does
Alice is 1, I think.
1, okay. So it doesn't outright break the card.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's fine. It's a cute little duelist card. Yeah. Neat filler post rotation.
Yeah. It's a neat filler post rotation. And the other thing is because it chose to have 0 attack, you can also, it starts with a higher HP stat. So the odds of this getting maybe 2, maybe 3 kills in, it requires a bit of an investment, but it's not entirely out of the question. What do you think, Empty?
Yeah, I think this is an awesome design. I like having mana sinks is something that's really interesting. I think it's a really cool design space that's kind of not been explored. Part of that is probably because of Thorn Prince Ellis. Yeah. Which you can technically still break with this, but you need 2 of them in play, so it's a lot more work. And I think that's fine. Yeah. The other thing is that +4 attack for 2 mana is actually pretty scary. If your opponent doesn't have any blockers, you can just sink your mana into this. It can be 12 damage for 6 mana. Yeah. And of course, if there's some way to give this overrun, Like you can do that and rush in. I just
Yeah.
think there's some really cool stuff you can do with this card.
And it's actually doing really well in the subreddit, so this will be interesting to see. No real relevant tribes, but you know, not everything has to have them. This is just, I think this would this see a lot of play in like Perlma or Hellbeam?
I'm actually contemplating if this would actually see play in KM instead of these other two heroes.
Oh yeah.
Then again, it has one very odd combination of tribals, so
Yeah.
maybe, just maybe, specters might be relevant for one of the birds.
You do KM specters. That'd be interesting.
Yeah. Because I know there's at least one specter in mind. I don't know. Neon Spider Crawl is a 2-drop mine 2/1 robot spider from Aesthetic. Rebound ambush. When this leaves play, draw a card, then discard a card. So things I like. Rummage designs. Ambush and mine. That's just interesting. And neons. I love me some neons. Especially now this is doing the leaves play variety, which they were kind of playing around with, but didn't really do all that much. So, Mr. I want to see spiders be relevant. What do you think of this one? No.
I tried my best with spiders, but I think at this point it's best to just let them die.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's in mine too, so
Yeah.
not really a spider card. It is a very interesting design. I like having like these mind discard cards. Because like there's that temptation always to run them off affinity and spirit because of the discard synergy.
Mm-hmm.
But then like in mind you have rummage, and I always like cards that encourage you a little bit to run them off affinity because I think it makes for more interesting deck building.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than that, just sort of an interesting neon design. I like the leaves play versus enters play thing isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Since like you're still gonna get the trigger if you bounce it.
Yeah,
but,
well,
like,
yeah.
You don't get it on play, obviously, which is the big thing.
Well, the thing is, they kind of need to be two kinds of effects. This one's good because you don't need to be able to time it perfectly. So if your opponent kills this with something that's just going to hit it with for 1 damage, then I want to loot at all times in my turn, right? Because maybe not a rummage, but this is a loot. I draw first.
Yeah, that is very important.
Yeah, so worst case scenario, I'm just milling myself. But in practice, this is more often than not, I don't care when I get it, this is only going to improve my hand by giving me some filter. I
kind of want it to be discard first now, just so your opponent can use it to like disrupt your game plan.
No! Aesthetica!
I like multi-dimensional cards like that.
Stuff. Grief, what do you think of this?
I think it's missing at least one stat point.
Yeah, I thought maybe that too, actually.
At least one attack more that would make it a more aggressive ambusher, which sounds a little bit odd, but that's something that Northland Guard is basically as a 4/2. But yeah, I don't really have anything against that card. It's a really good rummaging design. But yeah, this is valuing ambush as an actual keyword, so I cannot really overlook that flaw.
Yeah.
In terms of stat distribution. On the other hand, I mean, art-wise, I'm just reminded of a Death Punk-ish version of our Black Queen that basically kills stuff pre-combat.
Mm-hmm.
But that's everything but a spider. So I don't know the relation to that kind of tribal, but yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, also mind robots, so if anyone wanted that to be a thing.
Okay, one thing I just thought of before we move to the next card.
Okay.
Since it has rebound and it's a leaves play trigger, couldn't you discard this as the card to its effect? Because it would rebound back to your hand, and then wouldn't the ability go off?
Should be the case, because rebound should go first.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
Unless Because I know you can actually sort keywords as well in the ordering of blocking. If the blocking sequence allows you to go before rebound, even though the card text doesn't imply it, because keywords always go first before abilities. But as I said, you can order keywords at a lower priority in regards to the rest of your abilities. If that actually affects the interaction with that card, that can be actually some cute little fix for cards in the future as well. If we consider, oh yeah, rebound can be put below the effect, so it will balance the card, so it wouldn't discard itself to its own effect.
Yeah.
If that cannot be fixed, then whatever. But it's a cute interaction.
Yeah, definitely. Oop. Okay, the Lost Kid is a 1-drop strength 0/2 Nightling from Swiatlo. When this is targeted by an ally, give it +1 attack and duelist, and it gains untargetable while that unit is in play. It's a Super Sun design. I was a little confused by this. Is this like a good... I mean, this is designed specifically to be a 1-drop 4 Nightlings. I really liked the Portside Militia a while back, and I'm curious as to whether or not this is what Nightlings really need. So, Grief, what do you think of this?
That's kind of a unique unit because you can target it with everything else, but the untargetable will only hit the unit the moment you hit it, moment you target it with a unit that you control. So it's a pretty cute little build your own Voltron Pillar Fortress unit. That, oh yeah, now I'm finished. Do my activate ability or play my fast unit and target it with any kind of buff. Now my unit is done. Now it's locked. No duelist can can do anything to it. Maybe I put on stuff like regenerated before, or even with the shaman, which allows you to have regenerate just by putting the unit beside it. So it can also gain buffs from passive and whatever, or board wipe effects that's still don't particularly target that Lost Kid. So it's a pretty unique unit in that aspect. For hard locking your buffs and semi-protection.
Yeah.
On the other hand, art-wise, because when I'm already doing the art commentary this episode, why does this Nightling look so disappointed when looking at that frog?
Yeah, I don't know who's more disappointed, the frog to be captured or the Nightling to be holding her pet, apparently. I don't know. No, I think the art's adorable in its weird, kind of derpy, Swiatlo way. I guess this is the more goofy-ish kind of thing, but
just quoting Popcorn. Yeah. Meta game report. Frogs have leave, except most frogs in collective don't.
So, Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, so I know like the goal behind this design was to try and cover one of Nightling's major weaknesses, which is that like when you pair them with a unit, your opponent can just kill that unit and essentially 2-for-1 you. Because most of the Nightlings are really bad when they're not paired with something. And the goal with this obviously is that while it's untargetable, your opponent can't really deal with it, so they can't 2-for-1 you. And I think this is like a good way to accomplish that design.
Yeah.
The main issue with this card is going to be, especially post-rotation, there's not really many Nightlings that actually do target now, so it may be without a home for a little while until more get in.
A Lost Kid. No. I do think it's interesting, and maybe the Nightlings could do more with this, especially seeing the success of like Lux, where this is a look forward Nightling, for lack of a better word, where it's something you're about to play versus the other ones which are look back, which is do something you've already played. And if you can't, maybe a mix of these two, it could do something interesting. But of course that remains to be seen.
I mean, this with like Wax Lofter is pretty solid. So that there is potential with cards from other realms.
Okay. So we had an AC jam this week, and they were doing Mind Arcanist, which was a interesting thing. There was a little bit of support for it in the form of Ush, which was the finisher, the high end, and they were trying to build out a low end to build it into a proper archetype. And this is Hollow One, a 3-drop Mind 3/2 Undead Arcanist from Mort Stahl, with Ally Arcanist having Tomb Drawn action. So there's a thing about, I think most of, I don't know if it's all of Tahazar's designs, but it's a lot of the ones we tend to review on this show tend to be really on the underpowered side. And I thought this was interesting as a Tahazar design because I'm actually worried about the power level of this card. Because this makes all of your mind, I mean, you're supposedly running this with a good cache of actions in your deck. And this makes all of your Arcanists CA neutral, which can be pretty powerful. Obviously, it encourages you to now build a board-based action spam deck, which is what people have been wanting. But I don't know. Am I right to be scared of this, Empty?
Yeah, it looks quite strong. It's basically impossible to lose card advantage with this.
Yeah,
because it gives it to itself.
Mm-hmm.
So like even if your opponent just instantly removes it, you're still up.
Yeah,
and the value from there is just really crazy. The main issue with it is going to be actually getting your Arcanists to die, because if your opponent's not playing like an offensive deck, most Arcanists really don't hurt that much, so they can just ignore your board for a while.
Yeah.
But like as soon as they start dying, this is going to get you some really strong value.
So yeah, I do like the card. I upvoted the card. I think this is really interesting. I'm just not sure about I'm not 100% sure about the power level. I like to run it because I like powerful cards, but Grafe, what do you think?
I like this card a lot. I think it's the right amount of powerful and competitive viable, and also allowing you to explore Arcanist or Undead in Lazaro a little bit more. On the other hand, sure, it will basically be card advantage neutral for itself as well, but it's still just 2 HP. So even before their board actually gets to do something, you can snipe that thing out, as well as maybe future design can allow us to do a little bit more of silence interactions, so that will also shut this kind of strategy down. And at that point, you play the 3-mana 3/2 to get Snake Bited or Venom Strike or Viper Strike. That's the name of the card.
Yeah, I agree. If this pushes silence, that would be cool, because I think we need more silence in the game. It gives us a way to deal with things in a way that's more creative and more interactive in terms of board-based interactions. But as is, he's really powerful, and I like him. The kind of powerful I want to see in the game to actually see what happens.
Oh, I'm feeling a disruption in the force.
Oh.
I heard a groaning of a community that hated a card called Hollow One, but I don't know why and what that card is.
Okay, Tempus the Timebender is a 4-drop Mind 2/4 Dragon Arcanist from nowhere in particular, and it is a rare. After you pay 3 actions in the same turn, ready this. Active, counter the next card your opponent plays and return it to their hand. Active, gain 1 mana, and active, draw a card. Huh. This is interesting. I like how, and this is a bug that got recently re-reported, it has the active thing 3 times on the side. Just make sure y'all saw that. So are all of the actives on it better than attacking? I don't think all of them are. I think the top one definitely is. So maybe this is just going to be some really stally, control-y type thing. I don't know about the game.
How would you attack with this?
It doesn't have flying or anything. Well, no. Well, it's got to be worthwhile for something. I don't know specifically about the gain 1 mana mode, if I'm ever going to use it, because the mode's also
you will.
Other.
Well, sometimes you're 1 mana off from playing your huge card, and then you're going to need the 1 mana mode.
Okay.
The rest of the time, it sits there doing nothing. But
So
when you need it, it's there.
Yeah, most of the time I'm going to be using the top thing because that is just bonkers good.
Well, draw a card is pretty good too. If your opponent has a 0-cost card in their hand, the top thing just does nothing.
Oh yeah. That's something. Because they can know it's coming in advance. It's a telegraphed thing. It's a big thing with wings that doesn't have flying, but I understand why. It's just a little sad. First mode's really good. Third mode's they should have reordered the modes. Third mode's okay, and yeah, you're right. There are some cases where I need that second mode. And these are all good enough actives to merit being actives. Who wants to talk first on this one?
I think Grief.
Grief?
Are you drunk? This card is damn amazing. I mean, have you ever considered that, yeah, fast as a keyword exists on actions?
Oh,
playing 3 actions a turn is not bad or hard in any shape or form, especially if you have a modular 3 action modular 3 active unit with only a cost of 4 mana that says, oh yeah, I ready myself just because you're playing action spam, and I have an inbuilt counter spell effect. Oh yeah, you have an action that has to be played now. Sorry, wait, here's the extra 1 mana. Oh yeah, you're also doing a lot of cost discount as well. Here I have a little bit more of mana fixing. You want to draw more cards for your final combo piece? Here, draw a card. I don't care. This card is definitely good and will see play with any kind of mode or with any kind of combination of modes, because you will, at least at the point where this card drops on turn 5, get 2 activations out of that dude.
Yeah.
Easily, if not more. Technically, each mode makes sense even in the order. The first counterspell allows you to basically give yourself on this turn a little bit more protection. The second mode, if you activate it, allows you to do an extender to get to the third mode as well, meaning that you've played 6 actions that turn, which, to be honest, an action spam is a piece of cake.
I think, I think these are definitely actives that are worthwhile actives, when that's what we got to evaluate a active as, which is what I was trying to say earlier. I'm a bit worried about the power level on that first one, because I guess a lot of players have that 1 or that 2 drop, and they're just going to get mana siphoned out of them. But if you don't, boy howdy, this just like hard locks you down. Or if you have a means to like bump the cost of something even just a smidge, or seems like this really encourages like hand control, honestly. But...
Finally.
Yeah. Because like if they don't have anything cheap, you can really easily lock them out for a while.
Yeah.
The issue with like doing that, of course, is that when they have initiative, you can't use this before whenever they're gonna play.
Yeah. Okay. Empty, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm not completely sure like how much I like it. It does seem really annoying to play against.
Yeah.
But it's a trade-off, because I think it'll make some interesting decks. So I'd be fine with it getting it.
It would give us a very good like control archetype in and of itself. Panzer Faust is a 3-drop Mind 3/2 Human Arcanist. This was also for the jam, so 3rd jam card we talked about so far. With Overrun and Summon, create a Scroll Bazooka in hand. The Scroll Bazooka costs 5, is neutral, and deals 8 damage to an enemy unit, the excess to its controller. And I blocked it.
This is the version that went up on the Reddit.
Yeah.
I can't wait to play Scroll Bazooka in my decks, though.
Yeah. Oh, I think that will be fixed post. Yeah, you
I
dingus.
did not hand that version off to Plopka. So Plopka, it passed two sets of eyes with that mistake on it.
Popka actually mentioned to Mystic to fix that. So they at least noticed.
So yeah, I do love, by the way, this art of this like gremlin. Like it reminds me of what's his name from Blanca. This like stoner Blanca. No, that's not smoke. That's all scrolls. I love the art on this guy, and I think this is really interesting. The name obviously isn't evocative to me in particular, but it might mean something to other people. Just the style points on this guy. This guy's just chock full of them. And then that's a really neat spell and has the potential to get max damage. You could kind of tune it based on what your opponent has to either I want to deal a lot of damage to face, or I just want to get this problematic unit out of the way. Empty, what do you think of this one?
I really want the scroll bazooka to just have overrun, because that's cute, but it doesn't really work with the way overrun is worded in collective. Yeah, it's a cute card. Like having a 3-drop overrun that like gets you late game reach and removal is pretty good. The main thing is like whether or not Arcanists are going to be like a semi-aggressive deck that can really like, I really want this. Because like some of the Tahzar designs we looked at in the Wujek one were mostly control oriented.
Yeah.
And so maybe like that deck won't run this, but yeah.
There is a neat potential layup with neutralizing shot, sets a unit's HP to 1. You might end up running that deck or that into your deck in particular, and it makes a nice little combo with this if you really need to get max damage through to your opponent. Grief, what do you think of this?
I don't have anything to complain about the card. It's pretty much a perfect fit for any kind of aggressive / burn-centric mind deck, and a new basic tool for it, post rotation. So, in all honesty, perfect card. Even fits into human Lazaro, or maybe even post this week Arcanist Lazaro.
Yeah. I would really like to see Arcanist Lazaro, because especially with the more control-y stuff, you get a chance to get out his big epic ability and
yeah, it seems like a neat deck.
Yeah. Hassen, the Tormentor, is a 4-drop strength 3/5 vampire from Mort Stahl. With starter turn, each player starting with your opponent chooses a unit they own to destroy. This is fun. So this is like a self-sack enabler. Glowstones are rotating out, but maybe this could find a good home in Legacy or other self-sack outlets. I'm sure they'll come. But this is inviting them, especially because I know, especially Mort Stahl Corn happens to like that archetype. So, Grief, you seem like the perfect person to start this discussion on.
It's more group slog. Give me more group slog. I like stacks effects. Give me more stacks effects. This is a stacks effect and a pretty good one. I endorse it. Do I have to say more? No, but yeah, to be honest, it's actually technically costed well, even for its stats. But the problem currently that stacks face is they're all over the place with its color affinity, color identity. This has the added upside. It's also vampires, so it has at least that going for it.
Yeah.
Especially for Baldwin decks on self-sack decks that are vampire based anyway. On the other hand, if you're basically trying to build a stack with the intention to be a stack that enforces a resource grind or choking on both player sides, it's still on the slower end because all the cards for that deck are costed between 3 to 5 mana, even on Legacy.
Yeah. So post rotation, what does the package look like that I have enough fodder for this guy?
Yeah, that's kind of the problem.
Vampire.deck probably, depending on what is left of that deck.
Yeah.
The thing is, vampires right now, they depend heavily on Glowstone Mine. It carries that deck because you just constantly get more card advantage and sat targets, and you just never run out. The thing is, once Glowstone Mine rotates, you are going to run out because there's not that many. There's nothing else that generates sack targets that efficiently.
Yeah. So with Singval Diplomat, Hassen, if it gets in, and a lot of these other Vampiric Modifier, even they're they're sack payoffs, but we don't have enough real things to sacrifice.
That's technically not right, because we can actually explore something new with this, which is Red Reanimator, because just this week we got Wild Nightmare into the game.
Yeah.
Which is basically that, a Red Reanimator spell. So you could, for more late game to mid-range purposes, sack anything to that card or in that kind of strategy, because you're basically playing a green deck in red in red clothing, where you're trying to just get out your end game cards out of the graveyard that you sacked into Hassen before.
Yeah. But it would be nice to see if someone's looking for a design prompt, something like Duskmere, like vampire cultists that worship the vampires, or the thralls that want to die in the service of their vampire lord. That would be really cool.
I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward to the bump down in power that vamps are going to get when Glowstone rotates.
I don't know. It's an idea. Okay, now for this one. Okay, Superlative Farer is a 4-drop 3/1 flying rebound. Summon, reduce the cost of an action or Arcanist card in your hand by 2. This is a lot of potential value because you pay 4 and you get 4 back. You actually have to pay 8 because you have to play it twice and get a lot of But you also get a flying piker, which is cool. Empty, what do you think of this card?
This is one of the few ones in the Arcanist jam that I don't like that much. Just because the big thing with the jam was it was supposed to be board matters, and with this it doesn't matter because you just play it and you've already gotten the value. You just run in an action deck and then reduce the cost of your high cost actions. And it doesn't matter if your opponent removes it.
Yeah. I almost wish, apparently we got a green human going around in Panzer Faust. I almost wish this would have just been a blue human and just Arcanists just all dye their skin different colors.
Well, we'd need an Arcanist realm.
well, this is like an alien that belongs to neither of the big alien realms, and it's just floating in this void, and it's just, I don't know. So the flavor was a little weird for me. What do you think of this, Grief?
I don't really have anything to complain about this card either. Stat-wise, it's okay-ish, considering that this is not a capped reduction, but allows it to go to 0 or below. So you can make cards free casted. On the other hand, this is pretty good segue into there's a pretty good card to segue into from Panzer Faust. Play Panzer Faust on turn 3, play Superlative on turn 4, now reduce Scroll Bazooka to cost 3, which is now a pretty good removal card that you have access to, while also having at least a potentially good board. You can this card also gels well with Hollow One, considering that you can do the reduction of your card effect, of your action effects, as multiple times, drawing into more actions as well. So in the scheme of things for the board-centric Arcanist, yeah, sure, it's not a card that is very board-centric in its effect, but synergizes well with the new Arcanist support that was submitted via the AC.
Yeah.
So in that realm, when that deck would be completely built with the cards that we have access to on the subreddit, or would have access to on the subreddit, this would fit right in. Yeah. Because it is basically the glue for all the card advantage or the card generation that we got out of these cards.
Yeah. If Essence, the thing I'm thinking with this is if Essence Shifter and Hollow One both get in, then I can Essence Shifter to give all of my blue cards rebound, and then run Hollow One, and then when all my Arcanists die, I draw a bunch of actions and deck myself.
You probably play Essence Shifter in a red shell or in a blue shell with Lazaro, because then Essence Shifter is rebounded. So all your cheaper-ish actions now have rebound,
Yeah. Okay. The Red-Cloaked Ronin is a 6-drop strength 5/5 samurai from Yamato. This is Mind if you are, so Chroma Mind. I'm saying it on the show. It's a real thing. Entrance, your opponent chooses which sword the Ronin uses. Sword of Strangulation, it gives the Ronin Overrun, Frenzy 3, and the opponent, which is you, the player who played Ronin, exhaust 2 cards in your, being the opponent of the player who played Ronin, hand until end of next turn. And the Sword of Sanguination gives the Ronin Duelist and Regenerate, and you, that being the opponent of the person who played Ronin, takes 4 damage. There's no alternative to making that like really, really weird to read. I think most people will get it, but it took me a minute at least. I love the flavor on this of like this Ronin is going to challenge you to an epic duel and you pick what sword he uses. And that's just a story right there. As a guy who likes flavor on cards, I am just 100% buying it. The Dia artwork on this is some of the best work I've seen Dia ever do. It's got a smaller pen, and that smaller pen allows you to get a lot more of those like finer details into it. That's getting better. As to the actual effects, I'm a little unsure about this. So I'll let Grief talk.
This has a cost of 6 and is actually well balanced around that cost because it has immediate impact with its sanguination effect, which is basically burn 4, while also gaining a pretty strong 5/5 regenerate duelist on the board, which is on curve. On the other hand, yeah, sure, if your opponent does not use the okay, I burn myself, you still have immediate impact with a Void Denial due to the Exhaust 2, a Frenzy Overrun dude that basically says every unit with 3 or less HP basically doesn't allow you to deny 5 damage. Ronin will be post-rotation an absolute powerhouse for a really long while as a mid-range top end.
Yeah, this is the Kagemusha payoff we need, definitely, because you don't have to think, oh, just run this, run Kagemusha. I don't care what mode you pick. My question for you, and either of you can answer this, if I have to, or what should I focus most of my attention on? What the Ronin's about to get when it comes out, or what negative penalty I'll have to pay immediately?
Well, I mean, that's going to depend on your hand.
Yeah.
And like that's the thing that I like so much about this design is it's a modal card where like both modes are really interesting and you really have to analyze the game state when this comes down and say, okay, what am I going to give this? Because with the mind mode, it's like they could blank out your removal for this for like 2 turns. And then with the other mode, like they're going to start tearing through your board with this regenerate duelist, and you're going to take immediate damage, which could like bring you really close to being finished off if you're low, because 4 damage is decently substantial. I think this is an awesome card. And I'm hoping it'll get in. Also, like you said, the Kagemusha synergy is really interesting.
Yeah. Also, Vile, the moment you can actually discard this dude or it dies during the game, you can even wipe him out for the extra impact for either no damage or the overrun frenzy or the regenerate.
Isn't Vile 5?
Vile costs 3.
No, but
As a
isn't it
enemy.
like restricted for
Wait,
5 cost or less units?
does
Oh
it?
yeah.
Ah, damn it!
Yeah.
Your combo is ruined.
No, I was so close. Now I have to actually reduce the cost of the card in the game. Okay, I know what deck I'm building post rotation.
Yeah. Well, Samurais actually look like a really interesting deck.
Yeah.
Like post rotation, especially if this gets in. So I'm excited to see it.
It took so long. It took so damn long.
It has been a long time going.
Okay, let me do a vocal warm up real quick. Vox Final Ballad is an 88 cost neutral 88 Vox Titan amalgam from Concerto with at the start of the game add 3 different Vox fragments to your deck and banish this. Silence and banish all your other copies of this. Play this when you have 3 different Vox units in play. This destroys the opponent. Caesura Vox is a Vox fragment from Concerto that's a 12-drop spirit 8/8. Summon all your cards, gain rebound when this enters the graveyard. Shuffle this into the deck. The 12-drop Fermata Vox for strength. They're all 12 drops. Fermata Vox gives all your units ward, which they all have the when this enters the graveyard. Shuffle this in your deck. And the what's mode 3 called? Tacit Vox. Counter your opponent's next 2 cards when this enters the graveyard. Shuffle this into the deck. Okay, so one big issue I have with this, and this is my other players might consider this a minor gripe, but this matters to me. For Voxes, your units have ward is always been a super confusing rules interaction. Anything that statically grants ward, and it's weird because the other ones have summons. So it could be summon your units gain ward, and that would actually be mesh with a lot of players' intuition. But
that would be very weak though.
It's already really weak.
That's true, but it's still that would basically sank for Mata.
No, but like even if you give a static that gives them ward, they still lose ward and ward stays gone, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing as like Cam's Empress that gives everything duelist. If you make something lose duelist with like a silence or something, it stays gone.
Yeah, and so the rules interaction is very, very annoying and confusing to think about, which is why I don't like statics granting ward. And then this does it when the other 2 are summon effects.
I don't know if it actually refreshes ward in this specific case due to internals. I don't remember it if the effect was set up like that, where it actually refreshes ward if the units lose it.
But yeah, it's hard and complicated, and I understand that high drop that's not going to see a lot of use. It just personally annoys me, especially when, like I said, the other 2 are summons. So this is just a big splashy. I want to get to 13 mana, cast all the 3 parts, and then if I manage to get all 3, then I should have won the game a couple turns ago. But hey, I definitely win it now. Parallelism is not going to be in there post Rota, but I imagine some people playing this in Legacy would run this. Did I miss anything? Grief, you could start.
This is a Legacy or combo.
Yep.
Where you don't play any units but Vox Ballad and try to power through it as fast as like turn 5.
Yeah.
And that's a funny deck. Because it's actually interactive, especially in Legacy, where you have mass amount of tools to fuck over your opponent. Oh yeah, you have a board? Not anymore. But besides that, I like these kinds of Exodia effects a lot. That's the inner Johnny/Timmy in me craving for something like that. Problem is, people will scream, oh yeah, this is a Kitsune. Because I think Hearthstone now got a new Kitsune card, and the old Vox was basically one, and new Vox is another one technically, which is the split fragment part of it. What is way harder to pull off because you have to control all 3 pieces. Yeah. Do I think it is? Do I think that it is weak? Yeah, most of the pieces, except for one, are very damn weak. Rebound is at that point of the game a very fluff non-keyword. Ward, depending on how this card specifically interacts with it, does nothing. But being a static counter spell for the next two cards your opponent plays, not being locked to that specific turn, is pretty huge. This would allow you to actually play Tacit first, then Fermata, and then Kesura, which would technically grant you the ability to get around that specific thing, because the first one allows you to play Fermata. Fermata protects both of the cards, and Kesura seals the deal, because, as I said, Rebound is the weakest of the three in that regard. But that's still 4 turns of playing these.
Yeah. One problem I kind of have with this is, I mean, even if you are trying to play like, well, no, I was thinking parallelism is a problem here, but it's not really, because you're just going to run this with War. I don't know. Empty, what do you think of this?
I mean, when this gets in, Or's going to rotate out. So, yeah. Like we said, it's only a legacy thing. I don't even think it's a very good legacy thing. And I also think that's like the only deck where I can see running this, because you're basically adding 2 really bad cards to your deck and 1 okay one.
Yeah.
Like, the Spirit and Strength cards are really terrible. I would never run those in anything. And then the Mind one is actually pretty good, mostly because you can lock your opponent out of the game with summon copy effects. Because there's no time limit on like the counter. If you stack it up, you can have like their next 8 spells counter, and then that just never goes away.
Yeah.
So that sounds sort of interesting.
Summon retrigger.
But yeah, the rest of the card kind of falls flat to me.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't like this because this is stealing some of the originality out of HPL by doing, oh, this is a parallel version of Vox, and I don't know. I don't know if there's a lot of, I mean, it's big and splashy looking, but I don't think this actually feels big and splashy. So I don't really know what to make of it.
The hidden upside of this card is even in a future where you don't play this card as a win condition, you can still, as any kind of mind deck, try to make Tacit work or make it retrigger even in Spirit due to a summon retrigger package. This is anti-mill, because this basically gives you 3 copies of Eldrazi's into your deck, which will allow you to never really die to mill unless they make you draw cards, and I think that's a good thing. Mill in the past, and I'm partially to blame for that as well, has been an extremely polarizing deck archetype, because they sometimes are even faster than any kind of burn deck, and they sometimes have to go through twice the amount of our starting life token and still pull that off.
Yeah.
We needed some kind of effect that reshuffles back into the deck without any attached cost. And Vox Final Ballad allows us to at least give us that.
Okay, so Empty decided to be nice and wanted to talk about my card. Supercharged Bolt is a 6-drop mind action from nowhere in particular. Deal 2 damage to a unit. If it died, repeat this process with a random target and +1 damage. What happened with this? I saw Charian's art and I wanted to make something cool with it. And I thought of the idea of, well, it's bouncing off all those rocks. What if those were like enemies' faces? And it was just going boop, 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 boop. And I figured this was a nice visceral feeling like Timmy card. So I blocked it up, got it working to where it will actually animate exactly like it does in the picture with the whole boop, 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 and just hit a bunch of random stuff. Most of the time, this is going to be a board wipe. Some of the time, if the setup's not right, it'll whiff. Who knows what's going to happen? Greaves are looking sideways at me.
This is basically always whiffing, and in the cases where it wouldn't, and in the case where you want this kind of effect, you're playing Forest to Cinder, because this bounces off any unit, even your own.
Yeah, but Forest to Cinders is A, rotating, and B, spirit exclusive, right?
Yeah, but still, this is a 6-cost version of that effect and can only target a single unit with a maximum of 2 to 3 damage. And if you're really unlucky, which you mostly are, this is a 3-cost. Oh yeah, I dealt 2 damage to a thing, maybe 5 damage in particular, but most of the time, if I'm really unlucky, I'm nuking myself. And why would I do that for 6 mana?
Because, well, if you're running something that's a little more aggro-y and against an aggro deck, then most of the time this is just a regular board wipe.
And in an aggro
You're not
deck, why
running
would I
board
want
wipes
to
in aggro decks.
Why would I want to wipe my own board with 6 mana in an aggro deck?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the case. Why would you?
It's so close to being a design that I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I want this in the game. But then, like, 25% of the time you play this, it pings 2 things, and you're like, oh, there goes my board wipe. I guess I lose now. And the game's just over. I don't want to play that card.
So then what would you, well, you said that there was just a minor issue with it. What would you propose the minor?
Have it just hit units with low HP first. So you can't whiff with it.
Oh, I see. Okay, have it work in direction. Okay. I get you. Fair enough. With the lowest HP target, and this might actually get in as is. So I'll submit the update and we'll see what people think of it.
Please do. Oh god.
I wanted to actually make this lower cost because it can whiff. Yeah, and then that would have been the thing I would propose for it.
I'm happy it costs this much because it means I won't have to play against it and be unhappy when my opponent gets lucky and then I don't.
I mean, as is, this would, let's be honest, cost like 3 to 4 mana in the usual case, because how fucking RNG related base this card is. But yeah, with that new fix, this could maybe perhaps cost 6 to 5 mana.
Yeah. Originally, I thought it deserved to be lower because it does have the chance of whiffing, and I wanted it to have that visceral feel of, oops. But for some people, that's what's fun. I don't know.
Why is this such a typical Stranger Side design?
I normally design more Johnny cards. I'm like Combo tokens. City, dude. I live in Combo City.
It's not neutral and it's lacking 4 tokens. Yes, it's not.
Yeah, it's not neutral. It doesn't got 4 tokens on it.
Oh yeah, each time it kills something, it makes one of the 4 tokens.
Oh no! Whenever it kills something, it repeats itself. It creates a force plays a copy of itself.
God.
Now it really ping pongs.
Okay. Seele the Peacemaker is an 8-drop Spirit 1/5 Robot Golem Spectre from Mort Stahl with Duelist Deadly. Summon, destroy all of the units, starting with your opponent. Both players choose a unit in their opponent's graveyard to return to their opponent's play. Okay, so it's like a group huggy exhume type effect. This is neat. I can get behind this. It's a robot golem. Empty. Tell me why you picked this card and what to think of this. Because I'm excited that you picked this, but I don't really know what to think of it. It's hard to evaluate for me.
Well, I mean, the reason I picked it is because A, it's a legendary, and B, it has a really weird, interesting design.
Definitely.
Where it's sort of like a big stuff matters card, where like you want to have very few units in your graveyard and only big ones. So your opponent has to pick one of them to bring back. And then for your opponent, you just give them whatever. It's like you're choosing for the other player. So I think 90% of the time, maybe even like 95, your opponent's going to be getting a 1-drop off this. So like making it so you get like a really big unit after the board just got cleared can be really strong, but it requires a lot of setup.
Yeah.
It could be really interesting. There's like that 3-mana card that got in, I think last week. It's called like Embalming Ritual, where you banish 3 cards in your graveyard and then make 3 like mummies that also banish themselves. So you could run like this weird grave filtering deck.
Yeah. Grave, what do you think of this?
This card is very well designed. I would even run it at 9 cost of affinity or 10 in permo, and if I would willingly play a card for 10 mana in permo, it is really good. And it's a board wipe attached to a pretty good removal effect on the board, and allows you to transition, especially for tree birds for permo, for any green-based hero besides Bullock. It helps you transition into a big stuff matters deck where you are grave filling and can play a slow, grindier control plan. This is the better version of Devourer of Worlds. Devourer of Worlds was a unit in way back when, in the early beginnings of Alpha, considered a very strong card. A unit that wiped the board except for itself and gained +X attack for each unit it destroyed. And that was considered peak efficiency of cards in terms of board wipes. We have long since power crept that card in terms of board wipe power.
Yeah.
But a unit-based board wipe that has the similar feeling to Devourer was never actually recreated. This one does. And on top of that, it can allow you to open up a new design space. Big stuff matters. Big stuff grave feed, which you can enable pretty easily. Even in, I even mentioned Marie. Marie would love this kind of card if she's extremely late game focused with her build, allowing you to grave sculpt, getting rid of cards you don't want, retrieving this card from the grave or from the board. You can, which is also an issue Marie usually has, where you want the effect mostly in the graveyard and less on the board. With this, it's not really an issue.
Yeah. I think this is an interesting and really flavorful addition and a good second Mort Stahl Legendary. Cornmeal just keeps churning them out. Just keeps getting on every week. He gets a couple on, it seems. Been doing really good. And so I'm excited to see this enter the collective in Mort Stahl. Is it actually doing well? What's it looking like? 11. So there's actually quite a few that are doing really well this week. I love having the competition back. That is so nice. Yeah, so I think that was the last one, and so I'm gonna stop the share. So yeah, this was fun. A lot of good, interesting stuff this week, as always. Hope you enjoyed our Thanksgiving special. Notice that we did nothing for it. So
I'm German. I don't give. I'm German. Sorry, I don't really give a.
We will have you explain German Christmas, and that will be our Christmas special. Okay, coming up.
German Christmas. It's just like Christmas on any kind of first world country in the world.
Okay.
Yeah. Explanation over. Sorry.
Dang it! Spoilers, man. We got to spoiler tag the whole video now. Anyways, thank you as always, Grief, for joining us.
You're welcome.
And another thank you to Empty Folder from his dark, dank closet.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
If you're on the Discord, Ping or Empty can give you his details so you can buy him a lamp if you want to.
I have this big light. You really want it to be dark? There we go. How's that?
Cool. That's how we're finishing the episode off. Keep playing and voting for new cards. Like, comment, and subscribe. Remind me while I'm doing this. And yeah, have fun. Bye.
Yeah.